Hey everybody, this is Baruch Kogan. I was telling somebody last week about this project me and my friend Reuven have going on here on the eastern slope of the Binyamin Mountains, coming down from Yeshuvadat, which is our little settlement up there, up the hill. Actually, you can see Kida there in the distance, and our settlement is more directly behind me. It's about 600 meters, something like that, 500 meters. And so me and my friend Reuven are trying to do a permaculture project here. This whole mountain is, you can tell by looking at it, it used to be very densely inhabited. There's terraces all over the place, and actually this cave that's right up the hill behind me is, you can tell, I'll show you guys in a minute. You can tell people used to live in there, and it's a big cave, and there are also structures above it. These mountains are full of structures, and the question is, well, how they do it? Because right now, as you can see, everything is dry here, and that's half the year. So how they do it? And the answer is that they used to grow trees, and they have terraces all over these mountains that are mostly destroyed now, but they look to be thousands of years old, and they've got cisterns to capture the water from the rainfall that happens here half the year. And it's actually a really nice area. We're right below the line where it snows, so it never snows here in the winter. It does snow up top the hill. We're about 600 meters above sea level. I'll show you guys the Jordan River Valley here when I show you the trees. And anyway, so you can see that the trees are behind me, okay, down the hill. And so me and my friend Reuven, we said, okay, listen, it's a big waste. This beautiful area, it's completely barren. So we said, okay. So we brought up a bunch of these barrels here. You can see these 50-gallon drums basically here. And then we brought up a bunch of trees, and you can see this is a fig tree here. And we brought down all this hose you can see behind me, down about 600 meters of mountainside, and ran some drip irrigation, and we have our trees. Our first 30 trees are down here, and a friend of mine suggested that I vlog what we're doing here. So this is the first episode in the series, and hopefully I'm going to keep documenting everything we're trying to do, because eventually we want to have thousands of trees here of all different kinds. We want this to be a permaculture project that's sustainable, that's got fruits and herbs and trees that have wood that's usable for carpentry and all this stuff. So these are the first 30 trees. We just put in some fruit trees. We put in 10 figs, 10 plums, and 10 pears, just to see how it would go last winter, and they seem to be doing good. So let me show you guys in a second. The first thing is that I've been seeing a bunch of these locusts come along and eat the leaves, and even though the leaves look mostly good, still some of them are eaten. I thought, well, we can try to fight this, and I got some these are called Ootheca praying mantis egg sacs. This is supposed to be like 200 praying mantises. Now I've seen them here. They're not like, it's not like these will be the first praying mantises here, but I'd like to really increase the amount of them, because we got we got more food for them. We got all these bugs coming in and feeding on these succulent tree leaves and whatnot. So I tied this to the chicken wire. Now if you're asking why I got chicken wire on this tree around this barrel, it's because these hills are full of deer, or I guess the Israeli deer are more antelope-like, and they will eat anything, especially when it gets dry like it is now, and it'll be dry for the next 5 months. So Reuven and I, you'll meet Reuven hopefully in the next episode. He's off learning more advanced permaculture techniques right now. Reuven and I brought up some chicken wire, and we put this stuff around the trees, around the barrels, so that way hopefully the deer will not eat them. And in fact, I've seen a couple of places where it looks like somebody just reached over and tried to get their deer snout into the tree and pushed the wire over, but couldn't get it over the side, so just abandoned all hope. What else can I tell you guys? This area is, even though it looks kind of barren, it's got all kinds of interesting stuff. For instance, it's got these massive thickets of milk thistle, which are these spiky, thorny, nasty. You can see the dry ones here. I mean, it's like a jungle in here when it's raining. But they're good for the soil. They retain nutrients pretty well. And next year we're probably going to try to harvest a bunch of them because they're also edible, and the seeds are edible, the stalks are edible if you clean off the thorns. So I'm actually happy that they're here. You know, eventually once we get this thing turned into an edible forest, the shade is going to kill off all these thorns because they need direct sunlight beating down them to survive. But in the meantime, they're doing a really good job of retaining water, preventing erosion, retaining nutrients, and so on and so on and so forth. You know, you can take your pick of any one of 11 billion permaculture videos and see guys going on and on about all this stuff. I don't need to reiterate. Let me show you some of the scenery around here, and we'll probably. The second part of this episode will be me trying to gather some cuttings for the next bunch of trees that we're going to put in here, hopefully this fall when it starts raining and we don't have to irrigate so much. So this is me looking eastwards. You can see the Jordan River Valley off there in the distance. It's a bit of a dusty day, but you can get a really good view of the mountains of Jordan. On a typical clear day, you can still see them a bit. They're higher than we are. As I said, we're at about 600 meters and they're at about 2,000 meters top. So that's all our trees looking down there. You can see Kvish Alon down there, the Alon Road, which goes all the way to Jerusalem. It takes about an hour to get to Jerusalem from here. You can see an Israeli army, they call it a pillbox, but it's really a small compound there. And off to the right, you can see a place called Gal Yosef, which has a cistern, which I might show later if anybody wants to see it. But it's a big cistern that collects water during the winter, and then during the summer you can go in there. You can take a dip and use that water for irrigation. Behind me, you can see all these structures. I assume these things are at least 2,000 years old. You can see it's built without any mortar or anything, and you can see this cave, which if I go in there, you're probably not going to be able to see very well, but let's try. It's about like a small home in here. You can actually, there we go, set up shop and live inside here if you're brave. I can stand up here, you know, and it's about the ceiling is probably about 3 meters, 3.5 meters at the high point. You can see there's little rooms and whatnot, and it's very nice in here. It's never cold in the winter, never hot in the summer. It's real sweet. You can see here this wall. I mean, people built this here the last time they were living in this area. I don't know how long ago that was. So this is an area that you can you walk around it and you can tell it's potentially a very fertile area, but ever since the Jews left this land, it's been a wasteland. Well, we're back now, so let's see what we can do about that. Let's show you some of the trees here. This is the fig tree that I was standing next to earlier. You can see that's coming in real nice. I really love figs. They're real super tough. I don't think even really. I think we could do without irrigation for the figs. I think they would just put down roots and that's it. Let me show you some of the other guys here. This is, I believe, a pear tree. I always get our pears and plums mixed up. You know, I'm a relatively amateur tree farmer. You can see it's coming in real nice. The leaves are coming in beautifully. This was, you know, obviously it was just kind of dry when I got it this winter. You can definitely see something's been eating the leaves, taking giant chunks out of some of them, which hopefully those praying mantis eggs will take care of at least some of this. And right down there you can see that is not, if this is a pear tree, that's a plum tree, and vice versa. And let's take a closer look at it. it's really amazing because we've had water problems here, and these guys have done fine, you know, with a week of no rain, no irrigation, you know, and it's been real warm here, and they've still, you know, they don't really show signs of heat stress that I can see. You can see this is a former insecticide barrel, which apparently doesn't bother the insects any. We put these, we surround them with rocks here until we can get the terraces rebuilt again. We're going to need some serious labor for that because it's all got to be done by hand. In the meantime, we're doing some rocks around the barrels to hope to trap the water and let it soak in. We've also got this drip irrigation hose. You might not be able to see it, but it's dripping in there right now, about 4 liters an hour. I try to give them, you know, 20 to 40 liters a week each, and that works out variably based on all kinds of factors, most of them beyond our control. But they seem to be doing good, and I think in a few years when their roots really get deep here, then they're going to be, you know, maybe not relying on irrigation at all, which would be really nice, because then we could divert the water we have available to other stuff so it establishes itself. This is the bottom part of our little plot here that we're developing. And see, there's a, yeah, this is a real little guy. We got some of them that were 3 years old and some of them that were 1 year old, you know, and the big ones obviously are 3 years old, and then some of them are smaller. But given how good the land is here, if we can contain this project, I think very quickly these trees will grow big. So here we're a bit lower down the hill. What I want to show you guys is that you can see, if you're looking, you can see all the water retaining features that were built here by the people that used to live here. Again, judging by how dilapidated these guys are, I'm thinking at least 1,000 years ago, maybe more. You can see that line of rocks. Those big rocks aren't just here randomly. You can see that they've been kind of pushed into lines. I don't know how long ago that happened, the ones closer to the road. And here you can see the remnants of terraces. You can see this kind of horseshoe shape where broken down terraces used to be, and you can see where they breached as well. It will be an interesting project to rebuild them. What I would really like to do is, you can see this depression that I'm standing in here. Okay, this kind of horseshoe shaped, this draw. Okay, and what I want to do is put up a wall to close it off, and then seal off the bottom, and then turn this part into a pool, you know, to catch water, and then use that to irrigate in the summers. Just use a solar pump or something to pump it up the hill. There's a lot of other places that you could do that too, but this one is just kind of, it seems to be tailor-made for it. What else can I show you guys that's interesting here? You can see this is kind of the confluence of two draws, two wadis, that when it rains they form a creek. You know, it comes in from that side where I'm standing, and it comes in from that side, and right around here they join, and they run down the canyon, down the wadi, right now through that culvert that you can see in front of me. So I would like to trap as much of that water in this area as possible and use it for for growing trees and bushes and so on and so forth. Right now it's actually, there's really good topsoil here. You can see all this is prime terra rossa as far as I can tell, but just this is settled into an unfortunate local equilibrium where this thorny stuff, this brushy, it's called, I think, garriga or something like that in French. This brushy thorny stuff lives here, and trees aren't really able to establish themselves. There is a ton of wildlife. You can see this is, for instance, deer crap here, and there's a lot of it in these mountains. There's big families of deer living here. I saw a butterfly flit by earlier. If you come out here at night, you will see If you take a flashlight and look at the ground, you will see thousands and thousands of little tiny spider eyes shining back at you, which is pretty cool. Right there across the road, off in the distance, is the Arab village of Duma. They made the news a few years ago. What else can I show you guys? Up on that hilltop is my friend Eitan's little farm. Up there is an antenna that you can see from, you know, half of the Jordan River Valley. That up there is Kida, the small settlement of Kida. Up there you can see off in the distance some olive trees. Past that is my settlement, Yeshuva Dad, and then you can see, of course, our trees there. So you can see our trees. Basically, what I'm doing now is I'm taking cuttings and I'm trying to root them. And my two kids. Copy. Here you can see, for instance, this is what I'm doing with this. It's a bunch of fig cuttings. You can see here. I've got this container, this milk or juice carton that I've cut in half, and I've got my cuttings here, and they're sitting in about 3 inches of water, which I threw some rooting hormone in there. Now, rooting hormone says that if you're rooting in water, it won't help, but let's give it a shot anyway. And then you can see the finished product back there. I've got a bag over them. I got some pomegranates and I've got some fig cuttings, and we'll see if they develop roots here in the next few weeks.